The October rain hammered against Marcus Chen's studio windows as he packed the last of his equipment into worn leather cases. Each lens, each camera body represented a dream that had slowly suffocated under the weight of unpaid bills and broken promises. The eviction notice on his desk bore tomorrow's date in bold red letters. 10 years of building his photography business, and it would all end with a whimper, not a bang. Marcus ran his fingers along his favorite camera, a Canon 5D that had captured over 300 weddings, countless birthdays, and enough corporate headshots to wallpaper his entire flat. The bank would take it tomorrow, along with everything else. Unless he sold it all tonight to David, the equipment dealer who'd offered him barely a third of its value. The thought made his stomach turn. One last project, he whispered to the empty studio, his voice echoing off bare walls, where his best work once hung. The prints had sold weeks ago, barely covering last month's rent. 100 strangers, 100 stories, one day. The idea had come to him at 3 in the morning, during one of those sleepless nights when failure feels like a physical weight on your chest. If he was going to lose everything anyway, why not create something that mattered? Not for money, not for clients who complained about every shadow and highlight, but for the pure, simple act of seeing people, really seeing them. Marcus pulled on his weathered jacket and slung his camera bag over his shoulder. The weight felt different today, purposeful rather than burdensome. He'd mapped out his route, starting at Borough Market at dawn, working through South Bank, crossing at Westminster, through Covent Garden, and ending wherever the light took him. 100 portraits of strangers, each with their story, uploaded to his nearly dormant Instagram account that evening, his farewell to photography. The first subject appeared before he'd even reached the market. Mrs. Chen, no relation despite the shared surname, swept the steps of her Chinese restaurant as she had every morning for 30 years. The dawn light caught the silver in her hair like threads of wisdom. She smiled when she saw his camera, straightening her apron with a pride that made Marcus's chest tight. "My husband always said I should be in pictures," she laughed, her Birmingham accent mixing beautifully with traces of Guangzhou. Took him 40 years to be right about something. By noon, Marcus had captured 43 souls. The banker who'd been made redundant that morning, but dressed in his best suit anyway, determined to walk through the city with dignity intact. The teenage couple sharing earbuds and a first love that felt like forever. The construction worker whose calloused hands had built half of modern London, but who'd never seen his own portrait printed. Each face told a story of survival, of small victories and private defeats. Marcus found himself listening more than shooting, letting their words guide his lens. He'd forgotten this feeling, the electricity of connection, the privilege of being trusted with someone's truth, if only for a moment. The afternoon sun broke through the clouds as he reached Waterloo Bridge. His feet ached, his camera bag felt like lead, but he'd captured 78 stories. The light was perfect, golden and forgiving, the kind photographers wait entire careers to find. 22 more portraits, and he could close this chapter of his life with something resembling peace. That's when he saw her. The woman sat against the cold concrete of the bridge's approach, a cardboard sign at her feet so worn the words had nearly disappeared. But it wasn't the sign that stopped Marcus mid-stride. It was her eyes, grey-green like the Thames below, holding a complexity that his photographer's instinct recognized immediately. Here was a story that had been written in pain but wasn't finished yet. Marcus checked his phone, 5:47 p.m. He had perhaps an hour of good light left, 22 portraits to go, and exhaustion was pulling at every muscle. Smart money said, keep walking, find easier subjects, people who'd smile quickly and let him move on. But those eyes held him. He thought about every wedding he'd shot where he'd captured love at its shiniest, its most performative. He thought about the corporate portraits designed to project success and confidence, all those images of life's winners, while people like this woman remained invisible, edited out of the frame. Marcus adjusted his camera settings and took a breath that tasted of approaching rain and distant hope. He walked toward her, his last roll of the dice in this game he was about to lose anyway. He didn't know that this moment, this choice to see someone the world had stopped seeing, would change everything. He didn't know that sometimes the last becomes first in ways that mathematics can't explain. He only knew that her story deserved to be told. Sarah Williams pulled the thin blanket tighter around her shoulders as the photographer approached. She'd watched him work his way along the bridge for the past 20 minutes, seeing how he knelt to meet children at eye level, how he waited for genuine smiles instead of demanding them. But surely he wasn't coming for her. People with cameras crossed the street to avoid her, as if poverty might somehow damage their lenses. "Excuse me," Marcus said, crouching down to her level rather than towering above. "I'm photographing strangers today, capturing their stories. Would you mind if I took your portrait?" Sarah almost laughed. When did she last look in a mirror? 3 days ago at the McDonald's on Strand, and what stared back had made her avoid reflective surfaces since. Her hair, once her pride, hung in matted strands. The lines on her face had deepened into canyons this past winter. She was 41, but looked 60, and she knew it. "You're taking the piss," she said flatly. "What's the real angle? One of those poverty porn projects? Look at the homeless, feel better about your life." Marcus set his camera bag down, a gesture that surprised her. Expensive equipment that close to someone like her, most people clutched their belongings tighter when they passed. "No angle. I'm losing my studio tomorrow. Today I'm photographing 100 people, trying to capture something real before I have to sell my cameras. You'd be number 99. Something in his voice, a recognition of loss that matched her own, made Sarah look at him properly. Asian features, probably Chinese, mid-30s, with the kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. His hands showed no wedding ring, just calluses from years of holding cameras. Another soul getting crushed by London's grinding wheels. "What's in it for me then?" she asked, though her defensive tone had softened. "Honestly, nothing. I can't pay you. I can buy you a coffee and a sandwich from that cafe there, and I can promise to show you as you are, not as a symbol or a statement. Just you." Sarah studied him for a long moment. 3 years on these streets had taught her to read people quickly. The dangerous ones, the kind ones, the guilty ones who threw coins without looking at you. This one was different. He saw her, not the homeless woman, not the cautionary tale, but her. "I used to be a nurse," she said suddenly, surprising herself. 12 years at Guy's Hospital, accident and emergency. Saved lives, held hands of the dying, worked 20-hour shifts during the pandemic. Marcus sat down on the cold pavement beside her, his expensive camera resting carelessly on the dirty ground. "What happened?" The question everyone asked in their heads, but never out loud. Sarah found herself answering, words flowing like blood from a reopened wound. "My ex-husband happened. Richard, consultant surgeon. Everybody loved him. Nobody saw the bruises under my scrubs. Nobody heard the threats. When I finally left, he made sure I'd never work in medicine again. Said I'd stolen drugs. His word against mine, and guess whose word meant more?" She pulled up her sleeve, showing old scars that told their own story. "Depression's a funny thing. Creeps up slow, then all at once you're drowning. Lost the flat, lost the kids to social services, lost myself. Been out here 3 years come November." Marcus listened without interrupting, without the patronizing sympathy she'd grown to hate. When she finished, he asked, "Your children?" "Emma and James, 22 and 19 now. Emma's at university, Durham, studying law. James, I don't know where James is. They think I abandoned them. Maybe I did." Her voice cracked on the last words. "Would you let me photograph you?" Marcus asked again. "Not your story of loss, but who you are right now in this moment, because you're still here. That means something." Sarah looked at the golden light painting the Thames, at the thousands of people hurrying past who'd never see her, at this strange man with his camera and his own imminent losses. "I haven't had my picture taken in 4 years. Then it's overdue, Marcus said, standing and offering her his hand. She took it, surprised by her own decision. He helped her to her feet with a gentleness that reminded her of who she used to be when she was the one helping others stand. Marcus studied the light, the background, then shook his head. Not here. There's a spot just around the corner where the light hits the old hospital building. Would you walk with me? As they walked, Sarah caught their reflection in a shop window. The successful photographer and the homeless woman side by side like equals. For a moment, she remembered what dignity felt like. Marcus stopped at a bench, where the setting sun turned the brick walls gold and the autumn leaves created a natural frame. He didn't pose her, didn't ask her to smile. Instead, he asked her about nursing, about the lives she'd saved, about her children when they were young. As she talked, he photographed, capturing the subtle changes in her expression, the strength that flickered when she spoke of delivering a baby during a power cut, the grief that shadowed her eyes when she mentioned Emma's graduation that she'd watched from across the street, hidden in the crowd. "You have extraordinary eyes," Marcus said, adjusting his lens. "They've seen so much, but they're still kind." Sarah felt tears threaten. When had someone last seen kindness in her? Marcus took 73 photographs of Sarah Williams as the sun painted London in shades of amber and rust. Through his lens, he saw not a homeless woman, but a survivor, a mother, a healer who'd been broken by systems that should have protected her. Each click of the shutter felt like an act of rebellion against a world that had made her invisible. "Tell me about your happiest memory," he asked, adjusting the aperture to catch the light in her eyes. Sarah was quiet for so long, he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, softly, "Emma's first day of school. She was so nervous, wearing this little uniform that was too big, her hair in pigtails I'd practiced all week. She held my hand at the gate and said, 'Mummy, what if nobody likes me?' And I told her, 'Impossible, my darling, you're made of starlight.' She laughed and ran in, brave as anything. That was before everything went dark." Marcus captured the ghost of that young mother in Sarah's smile, fleeting but unmistakable. In that moment, she wasn't homeless or lost or forgotten. She was a mother who'd loved her children with the fierce devotion that poverty couldn't steal. "One more," Marcus said, though he'd already taken more than he'd planned. "This time, look directly at me. Don't smile, don't pose, just be." Sarah met his lens with those remarkable eyes, and Marcus saw everything. The pain, the resilience, the stubborn refusal to completely surrender hope. He pressed the shutter, and somehow knew he'd just taken the most important photograph of his career. "Thank you," he said, lowering his camera. "You're my 99th portrait. Just one more and—" "Make me 100, Sarah interrupted. "End with me." Marcus paused. He'd planned to finish with someone uplifting, perhaps a child or a young couple, something to end his project on a high note. But looking at Sarah, at the dignity she maintained despite everything trying to crush it, he realized she was the perfect ending, or perhaps beginning. "You're 100, he agreed. "The last portrait." They walked back toward Waterloo Station, where Sarah had left her few belongings with Tom, an older homeless man who watched people's things for £1 when he could get it. The evening crowd surged around them, commuters desperate to get home, to their warm houses and waiting families. Sarah moved through them like a ghost, practiced in the art of taking up no space. "I'll upload these tonight," Marcus said as they reached the station. "To my Instagram. It's not much of a following, but nobody will care," Sarah said gently, not unkindly. "That's not your fault. It's just how it is. People like me, we're meant to be invisible. Makes everyone else feel safer." She paused, then added, "But thank you for seeing me, really seeing me. I'd forgotten what that felt like." Marcus wanted to protest, to promise that people would care, but the words felt hollow. Instead, he pulled out his wallet and offered her the £60 inside, his last cash until he sold his equipment tomorrow. Sarah shook her head. "You're losing everything tomorrow. Keep it. Please. You gave me something today. Let me give something back." She took the money reluctantly, and Marcus saw her mentally calculating. A hostel bed for 3 nights, or food for a week, or a phone top-up to maybe try calling Emma again. "What's your Instagram?" she asked suddenly. "In Marcus Chen Photography." "Why? Had a phone once. Might again someday. Would like to see how I look through your eyes." Marcus wrote it down on a scrap of paper, along with his personal email. "If you ever need anything, I won't have much after tomorrow, but you're a good man, Marcus Chen. Don't let the world beat that out of you." They parted ways as the October sky opened up, rain washing the streets clean. Marcus ran for the tube, his camera bag protected under his jacket. Sarah pulled a plastic sheet over her belongings and settled in for another night, the 60 pounds tucked safely in her inside pocket. On the Northern Line, Marcus began editing on his phone, uploading as he went. The baker from Borough Market, the city banker with tears in his eyes, the teenage lovers, the construction worker. Each portrait accompanied by a brief story, a glimpse into a life. The train rocked through tunnels, and his phone struggled with signal, but he persisted. By the time he reached his flat in Elephant and Castle, he'd uploaded 98 portraits. He saved Sarah for last, selecting 5 images that captured different facets of her spirit. The final one, the direct gaze that held universes of pain and hope, made him pause. This was the one. He crafted her caption carefully. Portrait 100-100, Sarah, former A&E nurse, mother, survivor. She saved lives for 12 years before life broke her. 3 years on the streets haven't dimmed the kindness in her eyes. She told me her daughter once asked if anyone would like her, and Sarah replied, "Impossible, my darling, you're made of starlight." Sarah is still made of starlight too, though the world has tried to convince her otherwise. She was my last portrait today, but perhaps she should have been first. 100 strangers, London, human stories, invisible people, see me. Marcus hit share at 11:47 p.m., then tossed his phone aside and collapsed into bed. Tomorrow he would lose his studio, his equipment, his decade-long dream. But tonight, he'd done something that mattered. His phone buzzed once, twice, then continuously. Exhausted, Marcus reached over to switch it to silent. The screen showed 47 notifications and climbing. He frowned, opening Instagram. Sarah's portrait had been shared 312 times in 13 minutes. Comments flooded in. Someone with a verified checkmark had reposted it, then another. His follower count, stagnant at 892 for months, showed 2,341 and climbing. Marcus sat up, watching in disbelief as the numbers climbed, but it wasn't the metrics that made his hands shake. It was the comments under Sarah's photo. "This is my mom. Oh my God, this is my mom. I've been looking for her for 2 years." The profile belonged to Emma Williams Law, Durham University Law Society in the bio. Profile picture of a young woman with Sarah's eyes. Marcus stared at the screen as Emma's comment got pushed up by likes and replies. His phone rang, an unknown number. "Is this Marcus Chen?" A young woman's voice, breathless, desperate. "The photographer. You photographed my mother. Sarah Williams. Where is she? Please, I need to know where she is." Emma Williams sat in her Durham dorm room, laptop screen glowing in the darkness, her roommate asleep nearby. She'd been scrolling mindlessly through Instagram, procrastinating on her criminal law essay, when the algorithm served up Marcus's photo. Her mother's eyes had stopped her cold, her heart forgetting how to beat for 3 endless seconds. "She's usually at Waterloo Station," Marcus told her over the phone, his voice careful. "Near the main entrance, but Emma, it's past midnight. She might not be there now, and approaching homeless camps at night. I don't care. I'm coming to London, now." Emma was already pulling on jeans, stuffing clothes into a backpack. "The first train is at 5:40. I'll be there by 9. "Emma, wait. Should you call your brother? Your father?" "My father is the reason she's on the streets," Emma said flatly. "And James blamed her for leaving. He's 19 and angry, and doesn't understand that sometimes leaving is the only way to survive." Her voice broke. I've looked for her for 2 years, hired a private investigator with my student loan money, filed missing person reports. The police said adults have the right to disappear. Marcus thought of Sarah's eyes when she'd spoken of her children, the guilt that had bent her shoulders. She thinks you hate her. I did, for a while. I was 20 when she left, old enough to see the bruises, but too young to understand why she didn't take us with her. Dad told everyone she'd had a breakdown, that she'd stolen medication from the hospital. He played the abandoned father so well. But then I found her journals, hidden in the attic, 20 years of documented abuse, photos of injuries, hospital records she'd kept. She was building a case, planning to leave safely with us, but something happened that forced her to run. Emma's laptop showed the Instagram post approaching 100,000 shares. Her mother's face was spreading across the internet like wildfire. Comments poured in. Other nurses who'd worked with Sarah, patients she'd saved, people offering help, job opportunities, places to stay, and uglier ones too, the trolls who found sport in others' pain, calling her an addict, a failure, proof of society's decay. I need to find her before this gets bigger, Emma said, before the media picks it up. Before my father sees it. That name sent ice through Emma's veins. Don't engage with him. He's dangerous, Marcus. Charming, successful, everybody's favorite surgeon, but dangerous. He's destroyed every person who's ever stood up to him. By 3 a.m., Sarah's story had gone properly viral. Someone had created a hashtag, Find Sarah. News outlets were picking it up. The Guardian ran a piece on invisible women and domestic abuse. The Daily Mail, predictably, questioned why a nurse would end up homeless, implying addiction without evidence. Twitter was at war with itself, as always. Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat at his kitchen table, watching the numbers climb, reading every comment, fielding interview requests from journalists. His phone battery died twice. When he checked his email, 17 media outlets had contacted him. The equipment dealer David had left 3 voicemails, suddenly interested in discussing alternatives to buying Marcus's cameras. At 5 a.m., Marcus made a decision. He grabbed his camera and headed back to Waterloo. If Sarah was still there, she needed to know what was happening before the world descended on her. The station was just waking up, early commuters beginning their daily pilgrimage. Marcus found Tom, the older homeless man who'd watched Sarah's things, wrapped in a sleeping bag near Costa Coffee. Sarah? She left about an hour ago, Tom said, suspicious. You're that photographer. She said you were decent, but if you've brought trouble, her daughter's looking for her. Her daughter, Emma. Tom's weathered face changed. She talks about Emma in her sleep sometimes, calls out for her. Sarah's at the church on Weber Street. They do breakfast from 6. But mister, she's fragile. This attention you've brought, she didn't ask for it. Marcus found Sarah at St. George's Cathedral, sitting in the back pew of the empty church, a cup of tea cooling in her hands. The morning light through stained glass painted her in blues and reds, like a forgotten Renaissance painting. Couldn't sleep, she said without looking up. Never can, really. But last night felt different, like something was changing in the air. Marcus sat beside her. Sarah, I need to tell you something. The photographs... Marcus? A voice from the church entrance. Both turned to see a young woman silhouetted in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder, chest heaving like she'd been running. Even from across the church, the resemblance was unmistakable. Same grey-green eyes, same delicate features, though youth hadn't yet etched pain into their corners. Sarah's teacup shattered on the stone floor. Emma? The name came out as a whisper, a prayer, a question that seemed impossible to answer. Emma walked down the aisle, not the wedding aisle Sarah had once dreamed of walking with her daughter, but this one, in this moment, meaning infinitely more. Each step deliberate, careful, as if approaching a wild animal that might flee. Mum. Emma stopped 3 feet away, close enough to touch but respecting the canyon 3 years had carved between them. I've been looking for you. Sarah's hands shook. You should hate me. I left you. I left you with him. You left to survive. I understand that now. Emma pulled out her phone, showing her mother the screen. The whole world sees you now, sees who you really are. A survivor, a hero, someone's mum who called them Starlight. Sarah looked at the screen, at her own image shared by hundreds of thousands, at comments from colleagues defending her, patients sharing stories of her kindness, strangers offering support. But all she could see was Emma's comment. "This is my mom. I'm not that person anymore," Sarah said. "Look at me, I'm nobody." Emma reached out slowly, taking her mother's weathered hands in her young ones. "You're somebody to me. You've always been somebody to me." Sarah stared at her daughter's hands holding hers, soft, manicured, the hands of someone who'd never had to dig through bins for food or fight off worse predators than hunger. She wanted to pull away, to spare Emma the dirt under her fingernails, the shame of what she'd become. But Emma held on tighter. "I graduated last year," Emma said softly. "First-class honors. You were there, weren't you? In the crowd, wearing that old brown coat." Sarah's breath caught. "How did you—" "I saw you, Mum, hiding behind the oak tree. I wanted to run to you, but by the time the ceremony ended, you were gone. You looked so beautiful, so accomplished. I didn't want to ruin it." "You could never ruin anything for me." Emma's voice cracked. "Do you know what ruins things? Dad showing up drunk to my presentations, telling everyone how his ungrateful wife abandoned her family. James refusing to come home because the house feels like a mausoleum. Me lying awake wondering if you were alive, warm, safe." Marcus stood quietly. "I should go—" "No," both women said simultaneously, then looked at each other in surprise. "You brought us together," Emma said. "Stay, please." Lurie. The church was filling now, homeless individuals arriving for breakfast. Several recognized Sarah, nodding respectfully. She was known here, the woman who'd helped dress wounds with stolen supplies from pharmacy bins, who'd talked someone through an overdose when calling 999 would have meant arrest, who shared what little she had without question. "Sarah," a volunteer called out, "there's someone here from the BBC. Says they want to talk to you about some photograph." Sarah shrank back, but Emma squeezed her hands. "You don't have to talk to anyone." "But Mum, this could change things. The public response. People want to help. There's already a GoFundMe with £30,000. Job offers from 3 hospitals. A woman in Hampstead offered her guest house for 6 months free. I can't. You don't understand. Your father, if this gets big enough, he'll see it. He'll know where I am." "He already knows," Emma said quietly. "He called me an hour ago. Saw it on LinkedIn, of all places. He's threatening legal action against anyone who helps you, says you're mentally unstable, a danger to yourself." Sarah's whole body began trembling. 3 years of staying invisible, moving constantly, avoiding cameras and crowds, all undone by one photograph. Marcus's phone buzzed. Another journalist, but this message was different. "Sarah, someone from Guy's Hospital contacted me. Dr. Patricia Hendricks. Says she was your supervisor, wants to make a statement about what really happened." "Paddy." Sarah's eyes widened. "She tried to help me back then, but Richard threatened her job too. Well, she's head of emergency medicine now," Marcus read from his phone. "And she says she's ready to tell the truth. She's kept records, emails, security footage of you leaving the hospital in distress the day you were accused. She says Richard forged signatures on the drug logs." Emma pulled out her laptop. "Mum, I'm in my final year of law school. I've been building a case for 2 years. Character witnesses, documentation of Dad's abuse, proof of his coercion. With Dr. Hendricks' testimony, we could clear your name. Get your nursing license reinstated. It's too late, I'm too broken, look at me." "I am looking at you," Emma said fiercely. "I see someone who survived what would have killed most people. Someone who still helps others even when she has nothing. Someone who taught me to be strong by showing me strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting up one more time than you're knocked down." Sarah began crying then, 3 years of tears held back by the necessity of survival. Emma pulled her close, and they held each other in that ancient church while morning light blessed their reunion. Marcus's phone rang. David, the equipment dealer. "Marcus, mate, don't sell those cameras. That photo of yours, it's everywhere." The National Portrait Gallery wants to discuss an exhibition. The Guardian wants to hire you for a long-term project on Invisible Britain. Don't sign anything until we talk." But Marcus wasn't listening. He was watching Sarah and Emma, photographing nothing, just witnessing. Sometimes the most important moments couldn't be captured, only experienced. "James," Sarah whispered suddenly, pulling back from Emma. Does he know?" Emma nodded, pulling up her phone. "He's been texting me non-stop since I posted. He's in Manchester at uni, wants to come down, but he's scared, Mum. He was so angry when you left. Dad poisoned him against you, made him believe you chose drugs over us. Maybe he's right to stay away." "No." Emma showed her mother the messages. "Look, James's texts filled the screen. Is that really Mum? Is she okay? Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I understand now. Tell her I love her. I'm getting on the next train." Sarah covered her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed. 3 years of believing her children were better off without her, crumbling in moments. Father Michael, the priest who ran the breakfast program, approached carefully. "Sarah, there are rather a lot of people outside. Journalists, yes, but also others. Former colleagues, people you've helped. They're asking if you'll speak to them." Through the church windows, they could see the crowd growing. Someone held a sign, "Sarah Williams saved my baby, 2018. Another, "Justice for Sarah." And another, "Invisible no more." "I can't," Sarah whispered. "I don't know how to be visible again." Emma stood, helping her mother to her feet. "You don't have to be anything but yourself, and you don't have to do it alone." Marcus watched them walk toward the church doors together, Sarah leaning on Emma but walking steadier with each step. He raised his camera one last time, capturing them from behind, 2 silhouettes against the bright morning, stepping from shadow into light. The shutter clicked. Later, that photograph would become the most famous of his career, not because it went viral, though it did, not because it won awards, though it would, but because it captured the exact moment when someone who'd been told they were nothing remembered they were everything to someone. The crowd outside St. George's Cathedral fell silent as Sarah emerged with Emma. 40 people formed a semicircle of unexpected witnesses. Sarah wanted to run, but Emma's arm stayed steady around her waist. "Mrs. Williams!" A woman pushed forward, crying. "You delivered my baby 8 years ago. Emergency C-section. You saved us both." More voices joined. "You trained me as a junior nurse. You stayed with my dying mother." Each testimony restored a piece of Sarah she thought lost forever. Then Richard Williams stepped through the crowd, silver-haired, distinguished, wearing concern like a mask. "Sarah, darling, you're unwell. Let me help you." Sarah froze. 3 years of nightmares made flesh. "I'm not going anywhere with you." His eyes flickered with rage, only she knew. "Don't make this harder than necessary." She said no. Marcus stepped beside Sarah, camera recording. Dr. Patricia Hendricks pushed forward with security officers and a suited man. "Richard, we need to talk." "Patricia, this doesn't concern—" "Actually, it does," the suited man interrupted. "Simon Clark, Crown Prosecution Service. We have questions about falsified drug logs at Guy's Hospital." Richard's mask cracked. "My wife was mentally unstable." "Your wife was a whistleblower," Dr. Hendricks declared. "She discovered you were stealing opioids. I have her original report, dated and witnessed." The crowd recorded everything. Richard Williams exposed was already trending. "I believe her." James Williams stood at the crowd's edge, tall like his father, but with Sarah's gentle eyes. "I believe my mother." Sarah made a wounded sound. James walked straight to her, pulling her into his arms. "I'm sorry, Mum. He made me think, but I know the truth now." Richard lunged forward, grabbing James's arm. Sarah stepped between them, shoving Richard back with maternal fury. "Don't touch my son!" Richard raised his hand, that familiar gesture, but 3 police officers surrounded him. "Richard Williams, you're under arrest for fraud and coercive control." As they led him away, Sarah stood steady between her children, finally unafraid of his threatening glare. "Come home with us," James whispered. "Emma has a flat. It's small, but it's warm. I have nothing. I am nothing. You're our mother, Emma said firmly. That's everything. 6 months later, Sarah Williams stood in her new uniform outside Guy's hospital. The same entrance she'd fled in disgrace 3.5 years ago. Her nursing license reinstated, her record cleared, her story now part of a national conversation about coercive control and invisible women. You don't have to do this today, Emma said, adjusting Sarah's collar unnecessarily. Take more time. I've taken enough time, Sarah replied, though her hands trembled slightly. The viral photograph had changed everything. The GoFundMe reached $127,000. Job offers poured in from hospitals nationwide, but Sarah chose Guy's, not for revenge, but for redemption. Dr. Hendricks had personally requested her return. Marcus met them at the entrance, camera in hand. His studio had reopened, his exhibition 100 Strangers breaking attendance records at the National Portrait Gallery. But he still came to document Sarah's journey, their friendship forged in that moment of mutual recognition of loss. Just one photo, he said, for the end of the story. It's not an ending, Sarah corrected. It's a beginning. Inside, the A&E department buzzed with familiar chaos. Some staff remembered her, embracing her with tears. Others knew her only from the news. She was the nurse who'd survived, who'd returned, who'd proven that falling didn't mean failing. Her first patient was a young homeless woman, brought in with pneumonia. Sarah held her hand while administering treatment, recognizing the shame in her eyes, the apology for existing. You're safe here, Sarah said softly. You matter. Never apologize for needing help. That evening, Sarah returned to Emma's flat. Their flat now. James was visiting from Manchester, cooking dinner badly but enthusiastically. They'd established this Friday tradition, family dinner no matter what. How was it? Emma asked. Hard, beautiful, right. Sarah looked at her children, these remarkable humans who'd chosen to love her through her broken pieces. I saved 3 lives today, but you too saved mine. Later, as London settled into night, Sarah stood on the small balcony, city lights stretching endlessly. She thought of that bridge where Marcus had found her, of thinking she was nobody, nothing, never. Emma joined her, linking arms. Mum? Yes, my darling? You were right, you know. What you told me all those years ago. About what? Emma smiled, eyes bright with tears and love. We really are made of starlight, even in the darkness, especially in the darkness. Sarah pulled her daughter close, feeling James join them, her small family complete against all odds. Tomorrow would bring challenges, Richard's trial, therapy sessions, the daily work of healing. But tonight, she was home. Tonight, she was seen. Tonight, she knew with absolute certainty that sometimes the last becomes first, that sometimes a single photograph can restore a life, and that dignity, once reclaimed, shines brighter than any star. Marcus's final photograph would show them like this. 3 silhouettes against the London skyline, holding each other up, proving that love is the only light that never truly goes out.